such fascinating stuff. Now let's talk for a minute about the memorials. Because again, like we said a moment ago, God instructed, Abraham or Joshua or whoever, Moses, to build these memorials as a reminder. We see Jacob do it at when he wrestled with the angel. How important is it? And I know it's important, but let's talk about the importance of, instead of memorializing these natural carnal things that the enemy's actually using to our detriment, what if the believer memorialized the word or a victory in Scripture or this revelation that one might have in whatever area, where it's a place it's a strong tower they run into? That would be the opposite of what the enemy is trying to get us to do.
Right. Absolutely. It's, we're exhorted throughout the Scriptures to remember. That is how, the enemy doesn't create new things. Right. He just perverts and twists what God has already created. Yeah. So he knows how we're put together. Yeah. Because he saw it happen. He was there. And so he knows how this world operates. He knows how you operate. Most Christians don't know how they operate. Right. So he knows how you operate. So he basically takes what God has done and he turns it against you to your detriment. So he knows that remembering is a part of an empowered imagination that can propel a person, just like the Apostle Paul when they were in the cave or in the jail in Philippi. Right. What were they doing? They were remembering. Yeah. Okay, and it brought God on the scene. Sure. He wants you to be mired down in remembering the pain, the hurt, and the feelings fear of rejection and fear that you had, and to memorialize those in such a way that every so often you will have a time in which you put on 10 pounds, draw the blinds, and binge watch Netflix because you feel bad about yourself. And he loves that. And the more he can do that to you, the more he'll neutralize you in your ability to advance and take ground in the contested territory of your mind.
Wow. Man, that's such a real thing. You hear stories, and we've all experienced it to some degree, not really recognizing that we're under full assault from the enemy. And there's a lot on the line when that's happening, of course, because it builds a sort of a built-in reaction. It establishes a reaction in you that's what you do. When the pressure's on, when the stress is there, then you default to that place, the secret world.
It's a sophisticated captivity. It's a velvet noose. Yeah. Listen, to feel sorry for myself, it feels good at times.
Sure. And how could God be, how could he not approve of that? Yeah. Because it's such a, it's you for crying out loud, and you've been wronged, and you're right in the fact that you've been wronged. Yeah. But that's not right, is it?
Victimization is where he wants to bring humanity. That's what he did with Eve. He made her believe that God was withholding.
Even though he wasn't.
Even though he was not withholding from her, she already had what she wanted. He got her to see something that made her believe that she was being victimized in some way. And that is where he's taking this end-time generation.
He really doesn't have any new tricks, does he?
No, there's no new tricks. There's nothing new under the sun. The Bible talks about that in Ephesians, where it talks about that we may be able to stand against the schemes of the devil. The word schemes there is methodos in the Greek. It is singular, not plural. And it actually means with a road, and that's all it means. So he only has one road, and that road is to get into the contested territory of the soul.
Which is the mind.
Which is the mind, the will, and the emotion. So if he can get the mind cluttered up with enough misinformation or disinformation, then he can affect and energize the emotions that will in fact trigger the will. Yeah. And so then we got seed time and harvest. Sure. So basically we're perpetuating a cycle of destruction that we initialize.
Yeah.
His hands are indirect.
Sure.
They're not directly involved. We're the ones that pull the trigger.
So Jesus broke the curse, and those things manifest much like a curse, and they manifest generationally because of the cyclical nature. But it's not really him doing it. It's ignorance.
It's cooperation.
It's cooperation
on our part, either through ignorance or through willful disobedience.
Sure. A lack of renewing the mind, like Paul said in Romans 12:1. The renewed mind leads to transformation, which would be freedom in this case. Yes. And without that, then there's just bondage. And again, it's like being in a cell that's not locked, but not knowing that it's open.
It's sophisticated. Yeah. It's a jail cell that you don't know where the bars are, but when you reach a certain point and try to go out a certain distance, you'll hit them. And that's when your secret world begins to amp up, a riot in the streets. It begins to protest what you're hearing, what you're feeling.
Right. To dissuade you or convince you to just settle down, to back off.
To back off. Don't listen to what they have to say. That's not true. Grandma died. She had the same thing. You're going to die too. Yeah. Don't believe the gospel. Don't believe the message. And so it's basically building over the organic work of God, taking the wonderful, beautiful, lush, organic grass of God and putting concrete and steel over it.
Wow.